Hello everyone, I'm Mariela Condorena and welcome to our 11th webinar, Keys for Teaching Speaking Skills. We are so happy to have you here again. And now we are going to continue with our invitation. Remember that you can join us on our Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, or you can visit our Google site. Now, please consider these directions to participate in today's webinar. First, please type your questions in the comment section. The answer to your questions and comments will be replied by our guest speaker at the end of the webinar in the question time section. And during the live webinar, we will share a link for you to have access to the exit ticket, which will be available for 15 minutes. Now it's time to know our guest speaker. Hello, Miss Sulamita Chuten. Could you introduce him, please?
Sure. Thank you, Miss Mariela Condorena. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be with you again. You were invited to enjoy of an amazing presentation today. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Enrique Liñan. Mr. Liñan has taught ESOL at all levels for more than 15 years in Peru and the USA. He holds a master's degree in Romance Linguistics from the University of Georgia, USA. As a teacher trainer, Enrique has presented in a number of national and international events and has worked as an ELT consultant for a number of educational institutions. He is presenting the webinar titled Keys for Teaching Speaking Skills. In this webinar, we will learn to compare and contrast strategies for promoting fluency and accuracy, identify nonverbal and paraverbal sources in speaking, and review past questions from EDU exams related to teaching speaking. Thank you, Mr. Liñan, for accepting our invitation. Welcome, and the audience is all yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for the invitation too. It's always a pleasure to be here, sharing with my dear colleagues from all over Peru and also from other parts of the world. So let's get started, right? So today we're going to be talking about keys for teaching speaking skills. I'm going to share a presentation with you. Here's the presentation. I will give you the link to the presentation at the end, so you can have this session for you. Okay. So let's get started here. Today we're going to be talking about these three main concepts. Okay. As you know, this the content for this session is based on the curriculum for the tenure track, the tenure exams. All Minedu teachers, Ministry of Education teachers in Peru need to take this test if they want to get tenured, or if they want to move up the ladder, right, in their tenure track. So there are three main topics that we're going to be discussing: comparing and contrasting strategies for promoting fluency and accuracy. By the end of this session, I hope you can tell the difference between fluency and accuracy, and also identify some strategies that we can use to promote fluency and accuracy in the classroom. We're also going to identify nonverbal and paraverbal sources in speaking. Okay, we're going to be able to understand and identify what it means to use nonverbal communication and also paraverbal communication. All right. And the last thing we're going to do today is we're going to describe how to express coherent and cohesive ideas, right? What does it mean when somebody says that a text or is coherent and when we are expressing cohesive ideas, right? What are linking words, cohesive devices, okay? So by the end of this session, I hope all of you can tell the difference between these concepts, right? Fluency and accuracy, nonverbal and paraverbal communication, coherent and cohesive ideas, all right? Okay, so I see a lot of you are joining in the chat. Thank you for that. Please tell me where you're joining from. I see there's people from different parts of Peru. Please type in the chat, people from Chiclayo, people from Paita, nice. People from where, yeah, different parts of Peru, that's great. So please type in the chat where you're joining us from, okay? I'll be very happy to see everyone here today. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Here we go. Okay, so the first question I have for you is this. What is more important when speaking a foreign language, fluency or accuracy? What do you think? Can you type in the chat, what is more important when speaking a foreign language, fluency or accuracy? Please type in the chat. Some people might say that when you are speaking, you should only focus on fluency. Some people might say you should only focus on accuracy. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, my dear colleagues, which one is more important. There might be different answers and different perspectives. Okay, some people say accuracy here. I think fluency. Ricardo says fluency. Mohammed says fluency. Joyce says fluency. Betsy fluency. Karim fluency. Accuracy. Noemi Mercedes. Okay, that's pretty cool. Thank you for your answers. It's pretty interesting because the answer is not as straightforward as you might think, right? I wouldn't dare say you should only focus on fluency or focus on accuracy. I think it will depend on the activities that you are doing in your class, right? The level of your students. There are many factors that will determine which of these areas you will focus on fluency or focus on accuracy, or a combination of the two, right? So I wouldn't say that one is more important than the other. I think that it's important to keep a balance between these two so that your students can feel comfortable speaking the language and using certain structures that give them a level of accuracy, okay? So we're gonna see, hopefully after this session, you will get some strategies to promote both in the classroom, fluency and accuracy. Okay, so what's the difference between fluency and accuracy? Okay, what's the difference between one and the other? Fluency, what is fluency? Okay, so when we hear the word fluency, we need to think about this, right? It's the flow, okay, and efficiency with which learners express your ideas. When you think about fluency, it means the ability to continue talking, right? Fluency. Another characteristic of fluency, it means communicating meaning in a way that is easy to understand. That's another important aspect of fluency. It needs to be easy to understand. You need to use language that people are familiar with. And also fluency has to do with showing comfort. This is a key word, showing comfort with the language. When we focus on fluency, or when we have fluency in the language, we can speak with a level of comfort, right? I can say, for example, that I'm fluent in English, right? Because I feel comfortable speaking English. I have a good flow and efficiency when I'm speaking. And it's also easy to understand. I hope it's easy to understand right now for you. And accuracy, what does it mean? What is accuracy, right? Accuracy has to do with using language or the language system correctly, as it says here, right? That's the key word. Accuracy has to do with correctness, right? Using language accurately means using the language system correctly. It means demonstrating ability to use necessary lexis, grammar, pronunciation, okay? So that's accuracy, focusing on how correct your sentences are, okay? Correct lexis and grammar, pronunciation. So that's the difference between these two, right? Fluency and accuracy. Now, I know that you might already know and be familiar with this. So I want to show you some articles. If you want to read more about fluency and accuracy, you can click on this. You can click on these links later, and you will find some information to a website. Right, here's the website, okay, about accuracy, and there's another one about fluency. Here, it's from British Council. You can read more about accuracy and fluency. Okay, apologies for that. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Oh, sorry. Okay, now let's watch a quick video. Okay, we're gonna watch a video, and I want you to, we're gonna watch this video, and I want you to tell me what this teacher is focusing on. Okay, in this video, there's this this teacher. She's working with her high school students, right? And I want you to tell me what she's focusing on. Is she focusing on accuracy? Is she focusing on fluency? We're gonna watch it from 4:03 to 4:55, okay? Let's watch this video and tell me what this teacher is focusing on. Here we go.
We who would say very encourage their fluency. Give in an activity which focuses.
I disagree.
In an activity which focuses on accuracy, there's a set target language on which the teacher has to focus. Once the activity moves from accuracy onto fluency, the teacher has to allow other language, use anything they've got in order to communicate what they want to say successfully.
Are you ready? Okay. Who starts first?
I think mobile phone can lead to the bad relationship with their family.
I tell students not to worry about making mistakes because I need them to speak friendly and get the message across. You do not have to understand or hear every word.
I can see that, but you don't forget most people have a mobile phone now.
When looking at a fluency activity, it's much more important to consider how successful the communication has been rather than looking at how accurate the language was.
How?
If you were drawing, you
All right, so this teacher, what is she focusing on in this video? Can you tell me? Is she focusing on fluency or is she focusing on accuracy? There are a couple of key messages here in this video that we're going to
Successfully.
Are you ready?
The thing they've got, once the activity
I disagree.
in an activity which focuses on accuracy, there's a set target language on which the teacher has to focus.
Right, so focusing on accuracy, as it says here, there's target language that the teacher has to focus on. That's focusing on accuracy. But this teacher, what is she trying to do?
Once the activity moves from accuracy onto fluency, the teacher has to allow other language.
So you can start with an activity for focusing on accuracy, but you can move from accuracy to fluency, right? As it says here, the teacher has to allow other language. Once the activity moves from the accuracy part where you present certain structures to an activity focusing on fluency.
Language. Use anything they've got in order to communicate.
Right? Again here, use anything students got, right, in order to communicate.
Communicate what they want to say successfully.
Are you ready? Okay. Who starts first?
I think mobile phone can lead to the bad relationship with their family.
I tell students.
You see, and this is what the teacher is saying, right? She's telling students not to worry about making mistakes. This is focusing on fluency.
Not to worry about making mistakes because I need them to speak friendly.
She's focusing on fluency, right? Not focusing on mistakes, right? She tells them not to worry about making mistakes.
And get the message across.
Very important. She wants them to get the message across, okay?
You do not have to understand or hear every word.
Okay, you don't have to understand or hear every word.
I can see that, but you don't forget most people have a mobile phone now.
When looking at a fluency activity, it's much more important to consider how.
as it says here, it's important to consider how successful the communication has been.
How successful the communication has been, rather than looking at how accurate the language was.
So it's language for communication. Even if it's not completely accurate, right? They're getting the meaning across, getting the message across. That's the important part, okay? Getting the message across. You can continue watching this lesson. It's on teaching speaking, Unit 9 fluency on, this is part of teaching English from British Council. All right, we're gonna go back to our presentation. Here we go. So as you can see, there are key messages here, right? Getting the meaning across. Don't worry about making mistakes, right? And you can start with an activity focusing on accuracy and then moving into fluency. And here are some of the tips that this teacher was referring to, right? As the teacher said, here you need to get the focus on getting the message across. That was something that this teacher said. You need to make the message across. What was the other message that she mentioned, right? The second message, don't worry about mistakes, right? Making mistakes is something natural, so don't worry about making mistakes. What is another tip if you want to focus on fluency? Try to communicate your ideas naturally, right? Naturally. Choose a topic and speak about it for 1 minute without stopping. This is another important activity. Speak about it for 1 minute, okay, without stopping, focusing on fluency. And if you are familiar with the IELTS exam, the IELTS, International English Language Testing System, this IELTS test asks candidates to speak about a topic for 2 minutes, right? You can also, another thing you can do is you can use little expressions like to fill the gaps. Those are gap fillers, right? You can say that's another way to sound more natural when you're speaking. Now, what are some tips to focus on accuracy? Here's some other tips if you want to focus on accuracy. Listen to your English when you speak and correct any mistakes you notice, right? There is this theory, right? Stephen Krashen proposes this theory of the monitor model. The monitor model is this theory that states that one person can monitor what they are saying as you're speaking. And if you catch a mistake, you can correct it, right? So, but you need to get into the habit of doing that. So this is a strategy. You can listen to your English when you're speaking and then see if you're making mistakes and correct those mistakes. And when you identify those mistakes, you can write down those mistakes you often make. Okay, write down those mistakes. Listen out for those mistakes when you're speaking the next time. I remember I had this one friend who would always tell me she had a lot of trouble with conditional sentences when she was speaking, right? She couldn't really use conditional sentences accurately. So she would write them down and then she would be more intentional about using conditional sentences while she was speaking. Another very interesting way to improve your accuracy is to record yourself speaking. This is really interesting. Right now, a lot of people have phones or even WhatsApp. You can record yourself on WhatsApp and you can send it to a friend, you know, and you can listen to it or listen to the audio with a friend. And finally, correct your mistakes and remember the good language to use again, right? Again, continue correcting your mistakes, okay? Correct them, and then remember what you can use in the future, the good language models, okay? So these are the differences between accuracy and fluency. And here are some strategies, especially the one about recording yourself. I would really recommend that you do that. It's something that personally I have used and that works really, really well. I really like that, okay? So let's see. Let's move on to the next part. Now we have some exercises, some past questions from Minedu exams. Let's analyze those, okay, and see if we're focusing on fluency or accuracy. Okay, let's read this one. It says, Tatiana's students have drawn the timeline of a typical day in the life of their favorite artists. And they are now getting ready to present it orally. Taking advantage of that context, Tatiana would like her students to develop their oral fluency, right? So we're developing oral fluency. Considering the teacher's purpose, which of the following set of instructions is it appropriate to deliver before students give the oral presentation? Right, so which instructions should the teacher give if she wants to focus on fluency? So it says here, letter A, practice giving the oral presentation with the help of a classmate. Help each other identify and correct grammar mistakes. You see they are correcting grammar mistakes here, okay? What are they focusing on? They want to correct grammar mistakes. Take into account the corrections and rehearse your presentation one last time. Okay, is that the answer? Okay, let's see. Letter B, think about what you're going to say and write it in your notebooks. Try to memorize your ideas. Okay, remember that the objective of this teacher is to promote or develop oral fluency. Once you can say them quickly without stopping, come to the front and present them. What is the answer? Do you think you can develop oral fluency by memorizing the ideas? Yes, no, what do you think? Please type in the chat. What is the answer? Letter C. When giving your presentation, use understandable vocabulary. Okay, use understandable vocabulary, sorry. Related to the topic. Also, try to sound natural and avoid making too many pauses. So, okay, avoid making too many pauses. Remember, you have to pay attention to pronunciation as well. Okay, so the teacher here is telling them to sound natural. Which of these three set of instructions is the one that is going to help students promote their oral fluency? Yes, everyone is saying that. Letter C, letter C. Yes, awesome, letter C. Right, remember when we focus on oral fluency, we need to ask our students to avoid making pauses, to sound natural, right? But we're not telling them to correct grammar mistakes, right? Because grammar mistakes are okay. We don't worry much about mistakes when we are focusing on fluency, okay? So the answer here is letter C. Letter C is the answer, okay? Check, letter C. Letter B or letter A are not good examples of an activity that focuses on fluency, okay? So letter C is the answer. Awesome, let's move on to the next activity. I have another one for you. Carla has planned the following strategy in order to help her students develop their oral fluency. Here's another exercise or another scenario where we're focusing on developing oral fluency. Okay, oral fluency. Okay, so first, the teacher puts the students in pairs and reminds them of vocabulary related to holidays and structures used to talk about future plans. Next, the teacher shows the students pictures of tourist attractions and tells them to imagine they are going to visit those places during the holidays. They will describe to their classmate what they plan to eat and do in those places. Afterwards, the students talk to each other while the teacher monitors. When she identifies grammar mistakes, she interrupts kindly and corrects them. Finally, the teacher has the students practice the pronunciation of some mispronounced words. Okay, so the teacher is practicing the pronunciation here. Okay, so given the teacher's purpose, which of the following criticisms of the sequence is appropriate? Okay, so look at this. What did the teacher do? Okay, let's look at letter A. Okay, which of this criticism is appropriate? Which is something that the teacher shouldn't have done, right? Which of these criticisms is appropriate? Let's see. The teacher shouldn't have corrected the students' mistakes, grammar mistakes. Sorry, let me see here. Okay, so shouldn't have corrected the students' grammar mistakes. Maybe. The teacher shouldn't have had the students practice the mispronounced words. Okay, is that wrong? Practicing the mispronounced words? The teacher shouldn't have reminded the students of the vocabulary related to holidays. So which of these is something that you shouldn't do? if you want to focus on fluency? Which one is something you shouldn't do? You shouldn't have corrected the student's mistakes. Okay, is that something you shouldn't do when you are focusing on fluency? The teacher shouldn't have had the students practice the mispronounced words. When did the students practice the mispronounced words? Before or after? Look at this. The teacher has the students practice the the pronunciation of some mispronounced words. Finally, so this is the teacher does this at the end, so that's okay. You can do that after your students practice. You can identify which words your students are not pronouncing well, and you can have them practice the pronunciation of the mispronounced words. The teacher shouldn't have reminded the students of the vocabulary related to the holidays. So when did the teacher present the vocabulary? Sorry. When did the teacher present the vocabulary? That was the first thing the teacher did. Look, the first thing that the teacher did was reminding them of the vocabulary related to holidays. It was the first thing. So the teacher started with the vocabulary related to holidays. That's great. Building, activating previous knowledge. Then the teacher shows pictures. After that, afterwards, students talk to each other. But the problem here is what did the teacher do? The teacher identifies grammar mistakes. And what did she do? She interrupted the students. Is that okay? If you want your students to focus on fluency, should you interrupt them? No, of course not. So the answer is letter A. This is the problem here, okay? If you are focusing on fluency, remember, don't interrupt your students. Don't interrupt them. Just let them talk, let them finish, and you can give them feedback at the end, okay? So the answer here is letter A. If you want to focus on fluency, then don't interrupt your students. Don't correct their mistakes when they're speaking. Let them speak, let them communicate, let them get the meaning across, and after they finish, you can interrupt them and you can correct their mistakes, okay? No interruptions. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, dear colleagues. Let's move on to the next one. The next, let's see, next. Okay, so now we're going to move on to paraverbal and nonverbal communication, okay? So we've already discussed fluency and accuracy. Now we're going to discuss paraverbal and nonverbal communication. What's the difference between paraverbal and nonverbal communication? And I want you to take a look at the word para. Paraverbal, okay? And please look at the prefix para. Para means next to, okay? Above, or that's the meaning of para. So for example, you have other words in Spanish or in English, right? For example, paranormal, paramedics, right? So para means that it goes with, goes together with, right? It goes next to. So paraverbal communication has to do with verbal communication. The words that we say that's what we hear, but there are other components in our speech, in our conversation, that are part of paraverbal communication. So what is paraverbal communication? It has to do with the pitch, high or low, the tone, the emotions, and the pace, how fast or slow, and the emphasis that we put on particular words or phrases while we speak. That's paraverbal communication. When you put an emphasis on specific words, right? Or when you are speaking and you're angry, sometimes your tone is higher, right? That's paraverbal communication. It has to do with the pitch, right? High or low, the tone, emotions, the pace, and the emphasis, and some other components, but these are the main components of paraverbal communication, okay? So again, paraverbal communication is linked to the words that we say. When we're speaking, we need to think about how we are saying things, okay? And nonverbal communication. What is nonverbal communication? Nonverbal communication has to do with communication without the use of the spoken language, including body language, proximity, close or far, your posture, how you put your arms, how you, bend your arms or your legs, making eye contact too. So that's nonverbal communication, okay? So Paraverbal has to do with the words, but not the words itself, but their intonation, their emphasis, their tone, their pitch. A nonverbal communication has to do with your body, the proximity, your posture, your eye contact. Okay, so let's look at this in detail. Okay, let's look at this in detail. What is pitch, for example? We're going to take a look at that. When we think about pitch, we think about that refers to the degree of highness or lowness of your voice. So, for example, when you are singing, right? This is a great example. When singing, we can use different types of pitch. So, a very famous song that a lot of people know is the Happy Birthday song, right? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. When you say to, your pitch is higher, right? You have a higher pitch, okay? Also, when you are surprised, right? If you're surprised, right? So for example, you go out to a restaurant and then you leave your bike outside the restaurant and then you return and your bike is not there. Say, where's my bike, right? But if you're at a store, you're buying a bike, you can ask, where is the bike, right? You can have a different pitch, right? High or low. That's the pitch. And pitch and tone go together. Okay, so what is tone? Tone demonstrates emotions, okay? It demonstrates emotions conveyed through the voice. Your tone has to do with your emotions. And in English, you can say, I don't like your tone. I don't appreciate your tone, right? So your tone is a representation of the pitch. Your tone shows the emotion. When you have a higher pitch or a lower pitch, you can have different types, you can express different types of emotion. Okay, so pitch and tone, they usually go together, okay? And they represent how you're feeling, okay? You can find more information here about pitch and tone. There's more information here on these links. You're going to find more information later if you want to do some more research. And finally, speed. What is speed? Speed has to do with the pace at which you speak, fast or slow. That's speed, okay? How fast you speak, how slow you speak. And that's also part of the paraverbal communication. If you speak too fast, then people are not going to understand. If you speak too slow, it's going to be boring, right? If you speak very slowly, then people are going to feel like they want to fall asleep, right? So that's the speed, okay? So I'm gonna share this website with you. It's British Council, Learning English Kids, BritishCouncil.org. This one website is going to show you or provide you with a lot of tongue twisters, right? If you want to practice pace or speed in your class, you can use tongue twisters, right? Here, for example, there's this tongue twister to practice, how fast you can speak. Okay, let's listen to it.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Okay, so here we go. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Right, but you have to say it faster. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Right, you can get twisted. That's a great exercise to practice the speed. Right, you can do that with your students if you want. You can practice. That's a cool website. It's here. When you click on this icon, you will get access to that. You get access to that website. Okay, here's more information about tone and intonation and pitch, right? You can find that information there. All right, we're gonna move on to the next part. So we already discussed paraverbal communication. Okay, paraverbal communication. And now we're gonna look at some examples of paraverbal communication. I want you to, before we do that, here's nonverbal communication, right? So we discussed kinesics has to do with body language. That's just a more technical term to call body language, kinesics. body language, such as shrugs, right? Shrugs like this, you shrug your shoulder, right? Your shoulders. Foot tapping, when you're talking to somebody and you tap your foot, and head nods, right? You move your head as you're speaking. Those are kinesics, body language. Sorry, there's a typo in language. It says language. Proxemics, that has to do with the proximity, the use of space to signal privacy or attraction, right? How far or close you stand, or if you lean forward to listen to a person. That has to do with proxemics, right? That's nonverbal communication. Posture is how you maintain your body posture, right? The difference between posture and body language is that your body language usually sends a message as you go, but your posture just stays still like that, right? Your open arms, or you close your arms, that's your posture, or cross legs, right? And some people, just like to say nonverbal communication in general, but these are some categories that I wanted to share with you. And the last one is oculesics, that has to do with eye contact, right? Whether you're looking at the person, or you're looking away, or you're looking at your watch, as the picture here, right? That's also nonverbal communication. So your eyes, your posture, how far or close you stand, and also your body language. That also sends a message, right? That sends a message. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to watch this video. Okay, here's some more information about nonverbal communication. Kinesics, proxemics, haptics, oculesics, and there's also a sequence here with some tips. Okay, you can watch that later. All right, so we're gonna move on now. As I was saying, there's a video that I want to share with you, and we're gonna watch this video, and we're going to compare scene 1 and scene 2. It's the same video, right? But you're going to notice some differences between the first scene and the second scene. Okay, so let's watch this video, and you're going to tell me what's the difference between scene 1 and scene 2, right? What are they expressing? They are using exactly the same words. The words they're using are going to be exactly the same, right? But there is a difference. What is the difference? Let's watch.
Sarah, I've been calling you over the intercom. Didn't you hear me? You have a visitor. Well, I don't want to see anybody. Well, apparently someone wants to see you, so let's go up front. Forget it. Sarah, I've been calling you over the intercom. Didn't you hear me? You have a visitor.
Well, I don't want to see anybody.
Well, apparently someone wants to see you, so let's go up front.
Oh, all right.
All right, so what's the difference here?
Sarah, I've been calling you over the intercom. Didn't you hear me?
What emotions can you identify in scene 1? Look at this lady, look at her eyes, right? Her body language, right? What emotions is she trying to convey? Is she trying to express in the first scene?
You have a visitor. Well, I don't want to see anybody.
And this lady, when Sarah, right, when she responds, well, I don't want to see anybody, right? Look at her facial expressions, right? What emotions are they trying to?
Well, apparently someone wants to see you, so let's go up front.
Look at her hand, right? Let's go up front, right? So in the first scene, right, the tone is different. Okay, her eyes, she's angry. Mohammed says in the first scene, she's angry, right? But in the second scene, exactly the same words. But look.
Forget it. Sarah, I've been calling you over the intercom. Didn't you hear me? You have a visitor.
Well, I don't want to see anybody.
Well, apparently someone wants to see you, so let's go up front.
Oh, all right.
All right, so you can see in the second video, what emotions can you see, right? In the first one, she's angry, she's upset, her posture is different. There's a higher pitch, right, in the first scene. In the second scene, the pitch is lower, right? They are calm, right? I really like this video because it shows the difference between, paraverbal communication, because the words are exactly the same in scene 1 and scene 2. but the tone, the pitch, the speed are in the body language, right? The proxemics, right? Even she's leaning forward, she's like, so let's go up front, right? The communication that's going on here is different. It's different in scene 1 and scene 2. And that's the difference between paraverbal and nonverbal communication and also verbal communication, right? Both are less emotional in the second scene, right? Her tone, feelings, body language, she's calm in the second scene. She's asking politely, right? In a polite way in the second scene. Yeah, that's true. The attitude's different. So paraverbal communication expresses that, right? Expresses your emotions, right? It expresses your tone, right? So that's paraverbal communication. Okay, let's analyze some scenarios, okay? Let's analyze some scenarios. Gabriel has noticed that when his fourth graders practice a dialogue, they focus on the language, but not on the nonverbal or paraverbal resources they can use to express ideas effectively. Before his students start practicing a dialogue about their vacation plans, Gabriel wants to give them an appropriate instruction to help them focus more on those resources. So Gabriel or Gabriel wants to focus on paraverbal and nonverbal resources. What can he tell his students to focus so that they can become more aware of the paraverbal and nonverbal resources? Let's see. Organize your ideas well and use different linking words. So linking words to connect them properly. You have to follow a coherent sequence. So here they are focusing on linking words. Linking words have to do with cohesion. We're going to see that in a minute. Okay, linking words. So maybe this is the answer, maybe not. Let's see. Please type your answer in the chat. Okay, tell me what you think the answer is, A, B, or C. Try to be as fluent as possible while talking to your classmates and continue the dialogue without gaps. Okay, so he's focusing on fluency here. You see, you have to practice the dialogue several times without gaps. Letter C, stress. Remember, emphasis, stress, the relevant phrases you want to point out in the dialogue, and make pauses when necessary. You have to take into account the facial expressions matter. So which one is the answer? What do you think? A, B, or C? If we want to focus on nonverbal and paraverbal sources, we want to tell our students to focus on the linking words? Maybe not, right? Because linking words have to do with cohesion and coherence, right? Here's a coherent sequence. Letter B has to do with fluency, right? Be as fluent as possible, continue dialogue without gaps, practice the dialogue several times. But letter C tells them to stress, to put emphasis, right? The pitch is going to be higher when you want to point out specific words in the dialogue. Make pauses and also facial expressions. The answer is letter C. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. You all did it very well. Most people are saying letter C. Is letter C, right? Excellent. Well done. So this is the answer, letter C. Let's move to the next one. I have another one for you. Okay. Elsa is going to evaluate her first graders' speaking skills through a final debate on the topic school uniforms. In this context, she has planned the following sequence. The students work in groups of 3, one student in favor of school uniform, one against, and one judge to evaluate the debater's participation. The teacher writes some useful expressions to be used during the debate, such as, could you say that again, please? You may have a point there. Let me put it in another way. After that, she gives the debaters some time to prepare their arguments individually. Next, the students take turns expressing their ideas while the judge pays attention to their performance. Based on the debaters' arguments, the judge asks one question to each debater. The debaters are given some minutes to prepare their answers to the question. Then the debaters give their answers to the judge, and the judge assigns a score to each debater based on his or her overall performance. Finally, the teacher asks the judge for the scores given. The question here is, based on the sequence presented above, which of the following speaking sub-skills is not an objective of Elsa's lesson? Okay, which one is not an objective of Elsa's lesson? Let's see. Communicating ideas fluently. Are they talking about fluency here? Yes or no? using nonverbal and paraverbal sources, using language according to content, form, and context. Let's see. Are they communicating ideas fluently here? Communicating ideas fluently. Are they talking about fluency here? Okay. Okay, so they take turns expressing their ideas. Okay. So they are expressing their ideas, right? They are talking about the content, context. Okay. The school uniforms is the content, right? The school uniforms. So yeah, they are talking about, they are expressing their ideas fluently. They have a topic, a content, right? But which one is not included here? Are they talking about facial expressions? Are they talking about intonation here? Yes or no? What is the answer here? Communicating ideas fluently, which is not an objective of this lesson, which is something that they are not promoting in this lesson. Which letter is not being promoted? Content, form, and context, yes, because they're talking about the content, and the context is school uniforms, right? And the form is the language. The teacher is giving them some phrases, some form. So letter C, yes, she is doing that. The answer is letter B, yes. She's not focusing on pronunciations, on intonation, or the pitch, the tone, right? She's not focusing on body language or eye contact, right? Facial expressions. So letter B, she's not focusing on that. Letter B is the answer. Yes, thank you. Letter B is the answer. Awesome. Let's move on to the next section. Okay. Here's a quick video of how you can use paraverbal skills with your students. Let's watch this video.
Hello and welcome to the Teachers Room, the show that's by teachers, for teachers.
I am Sean and this is Dan, and this episode's topic is Now, our introduction was quite flat, wasn't it, Dan? It wasn't great.
We lacked intonation.
Exactly. And some of your students may also have difficulty with intonation, which makes them sound
rude,
bored, boring,
uninterested.
So you need to help them. Help them with intonation.
Especially when you're doing things like grammar or functional language such as speaking. You can mix in a little bit of intonation throughout your lesson.
And have fun with intonation. You can, for example, use humming dialogues. You can also give students one sentence and get them to say it in lots of different ways to highlight different emotions. What are you doing?
Surprised. What are you doing?
Annoyed? Angry?
Yeah.
Mario?
What are you doing?
Romantic in love.
Right, so you see here, there are different ways of practicing intonation in the class and practicing paraverbal skills, right? You can ask your students to say one phrase in different ways with different emotions, right? That's one way to practice paraverbal skills. Here are some strategies for practicing or promoting nonverbal skills in the classroom. So the first one is, for example, learners watch a video and discuss the meaning of the gestures and facial expressions. Learners act out a dialogue using gesture and facial expressions. Learners mime adjectives of both physical and emotional feelings, right? Like, you know, I'm in pain, or like I'm bored, or I'm tired, right? Learners take turns in listening to each other for 30 seconds using only nonverbal responses. 30 seconds, you have them speak, and the person is going to be nodding, maybe saying, you know, only nonverbal responses, right? Just to make your students aware of nonverbal communication. And the last one's learners make up a dialogue based on mime. They have to mime, use a dialogue, and they also have to mime, right? They have to act out with a lot of nonverbal communication with body language, posture, eye contact, you know, proximity, and all of that. Okay, there are different strategies that you can use to have your students identify and become more aware of nonverbal skills. Okay, the last part, or the last topic for today right, is coherence and cohesion. What's the difference between these two terms, coherence and cohesion? Let's see. Coherence refers to the general sense that a text makes sense through the organization of its content in a clear and logical way. These are the key words. When we think about coherence, we think about organization. Everything is connected to the topic. That's organization. It needs to be clear and logical. I remember, so for example, you are talking about ceviche and you say, okay, my favorite dish is ceviche. Ceviche is made of raw fish and lime. You need to cut up the fish and then you need to add some lime and you add onions, etc., etc. You say, finally, I'd like to say that ceviche is the best dish from Peru. And Peru is a beautiful country and it has 24 regions. So if your topic is ceviche, and then you end, at the end, you add something about Peru and 24 regions, it's not logical, right? It's not connected to the topic. So it doesn't have coherence, right? It's not coherent. So coherence has to do with that logical and clear way of organizing your content. Everything is connected to one topic. You are not adding information about something different or something extra. That's coherence, okay? And cohesion is you know, they are interconnected, but they are not necessarily the same thing. Why? Because cohesion has to do with, is the glue. Remember, think about glue. Okay, cohesion has to do with the glue that sticks your sentences together. So cohesion has to do with the use of conjunctions, reference words, substitution. Cohesion, every time you hear about cohesion, you think about, okay, conjunctions, and, or, but, okay? That's cohesion. It's the glue that sticks your sentences together. Now, can a text or a conversation or a speech be coherent but not cohesive, or cohesive but not coherent? Yes, it can. And let me show you one example. Okay, I really like this video. Let's watch this video, Miss Teen USA. You're gonna listen to this video or watch this video and tell me, is she coherent or is she cohesive? Is this text coherent or cohesive? Remember, coherence has to do with the organization. Everything links to the same topic. Cohesion has to do with the use of conjunctions, reference, and all of that. Let's watch this video. It's 49.
Okay. Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our children.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Okay, so
South
tell
Africa
me, is she coherent? Is this speech cohesive? Right? Let's see. Which one? Which can you see here? She's coherent but not cohesive, or she's cohesive but not coherent? What do you think? Please type in the chat. Is she coherent or okay? Lack of coherence, lack of cohesion. What do you think? So she's talking
unable
about
to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe
so
that
she's using and because, but so she's using cohesive devices. She's using linking words.
our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S.
Then like the education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. So she's using or, she's using and, right? There is a lack of coherence or a lack of cohesion. What do you think? Lack of coherence, yes. Lack of cohesion, but not, she's using cohesive devices, right? Lack of coherence, right? There is lack of coherence here. Usually coherence and cohesion are interconnected, but in this speech, you can see that she is lacking coherence. Her sentences are not connected to the topic. There is not clear progression there. It's not logical, right? She's not making sense, even though her text is cohesive because she's using some cohesive devices and linking words and reference and substitution. Okay, the idea is that your text, or when you're speaking, you need to be coherent and cohesive. But there are some examples where you can be coherent or but not cohesive, or vice versa. Okay, let's look at this activity, right? This is one of the last activities that we have for today. Angelica's third grade students are going to practice their speaking skills through a class discussion. She has designed the following activity. The teacher writes the following statement on the board. It is the children's responsibility to look after their parents when they get old. Next, she asks the students to think about whether they agree or disagree with the statement and the reasons why. She tells the students they will share their points of view with other classmates. She points out that they have to be clear and precise when expressing their ideas, right? So clear and precise when expressing their ideas. Accuracy. Precise has to do with accuracy. Clear has to do with coherence. And to pay attention to their classmates when listening to them. Then she asks the students to stand up and share their points of view with other classmates. Okay, let's see. Sorry. Here. The question. What is the question? Which of the following speaking skills is not a focus in Angelica's activity? Which is not a focus? Look, she's asking her students to be clear and precise. Okay, she's asking her students to also to pay attention to their classmates when listening to them. Okay, so interacting effectively. Okay, so which is not a point, or this is not a focus in Angelica's activity. Which is not a focus of her activity? Expressing coherent and cohesive ideas, using nonverbal and paraverbal sources, or interacting with speakers effectively. Let's see, which is the answer? A, B, or C? Which is not being promoted by Angelica? Tell me, what is the answer? Letter B. Thank you. Yes, because she's promoting or focusing on cohesive and expressing cohesive and coherent ideas, clear and precise. She's asking them to interact with speakers effectively by asking them to pay attention to their classmates when listening to them. But she's not asking them to focus on nonverbal or paraverbal sources. Letter B is the answer. Thank you. Letter B is the answer. All right, let's move on to the last scenario that we have for you today, that I have for you today. Okay, look at this, number 30. Rodrigo has made a checklist to assess his students' restaurant review. Here are the 3 descriptors that appear in his checklist. 3 descriptors. Linking words help understand the sequence of the text whenever necessary. Linking words. When we think about linking words, are we talking about coherence or cohesion? What do you think? Linking words, coherence or cohesion? What do you think when we talk about linking words? What do you think? Linking words help understand the sequence of the text whenever necessary. Okay. So linking words help understand the sequence of the text whenever necessary. When we're using linking words, we're using cohesive devices, okay? We're using conjunctions. What are we referring to? Cohesion, thank you. Ideas in the text are related to the topic, okay? So here, related to the topic. Ideas in the text are related to the topic. There are no contradictions, okay? So it's clear, it's logical, or missing information. And finally, accuracy is acceptable. There aren't many errors. So the last one is accuracy. Okay, so what is the question here? The question is, which of the descriptors above is appropriate to assess coherence in the student's written text? Well, this is a written text, not a spoken text. But anyway, I just wanted to share this question because it has to do with coherence. Which of these three, 1, 2, or 3, which of this aims at assessing coherence? What is the answer? Number 1, number 2, or number 3? Letter A, B, or C? What do you think? Everybody's saying letter B. Yes. When we think about coherence, we think about related to the topic, no contradictions. Remember, coherence has to do with organization in a logical and clear way. No contradictions, logical, related to the topic, organization. Okay, so the answer is B, 2B, number 2. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Let's move on. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have for you today. You can find more information here in these resources. This is where I got this information from. There are quite some links, and there's also these 2 books that I really like from Vivian Cook, Susan Gass, and Larry Selenker. These books are about second language learning and language teaching, or second language acquisition. Okay, I got the information from all these sources and also from these websites. Teachingenglish.org.uk. That's a really good website to get information about teaching English. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this session today, and that you can identify the difference between accuracy and fluency, paraverbal and nonverbal, and then also coherence and cohesion. Okay, if you want to follow me, if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. Okay, you can find me like on LinkedIn. I'm Enrique Liñan on LinkedIn. Please, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or via email, but LinkedIn should work fine. If you want to connect there, that's also great. And also, if you want to hear more about the courses that we have for you, you can follow us on Fanglish Peru. And this is Fanglish Peru on Facebook, right? You can find more information here. And we have courses, and we have are offering different resources for you too. So if you want to hear more about courses we're offering, please join us in Fanglish Peru on Facebook. All right. So that's all I have for today. Thank you again. Mariela, back to you.
Thank you so much, dear Enrique, for this amazing presentation. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Now it's time to answer some questions. Here, please help me, dear Juan Manuel. Are you there? Hi. Juan Manuel, can you hear me? Juan Manuel, are you there? We are going to continue with some questions, Enrique. I'm gonna read the questions of our audience. And I suppose that Juan Manuel has some problems with his internet connection. Okay, here. Sorry. The answers, I have the answers here. I'm going to read of my cell phone. So the first question, Enrique, is, how can we as teachers promote students' speaking skills when we're supposed to stick to the syllabus in a specific period of time? From Mohammed Hafiri, is an international participant.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I know that that's a challenge that we all have as teachers. And that's a different session that I have on autonomy and agency, student agency, right? Remember, student agency is the belief that your students have the autonomy to take control of their own learning, right? So I would say just, make sure that you can provide your students with opportunities to practice outside the class, right? How can they do that? Maybe with like pals from other parts of the world, connecting with people who speak the language in a different part, recording things on their WhatsApp. There are a lot of websites now where you can create, like Voki, for example, you can create your avatar and speak. You can create opportunities for your students to speak outside, I remember when I was a language learner, I went to a public school here in Trujillo, in my hometown in Peru, and we only had 2 hours of English a week, right? Like they do, still do that in public schools here in Peru, right? So we don't have a lot of time to practice speaking. But I remember this one teacher I had, she would give us tasks to find ways to speak outside and to share, right? And now with technology, I think there are a lot more opportunities. So just tell your students, if they really want to improve, there are resources out there. And you as a teacher can also identify what resources are best for your students, depending on their context and their level, and offer those to them, so that if they really want to learn, then they will need to invest time outside of the class.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Enrique. Now, the next question is there any options that involves the three of them? I suppose that he's talking about the competences, the capacities, maybe. Is there any option that involves the three of them? I suppose that this question is from Rodrigo Panduro Perez. Another question here says, what's the difference between coherence and cohesion? From Sonia Yasmina Machaca.
Okay, and then that's a great question. And I hope that everyone who attended the session today can answer that, right? But remember, cohesion has to do with the glue that sticks your sentences together, or your cohesive devices, your linking words. That's cohesion, the glue. And coherence has to do with the organization, making sure that sentences are related to the topic, it's clear, and it's logical, right? They are interconnected, right? But you can also define them separately, okay? So remember, coherence, organization, logical, clear, and cohesion, the glue that sticks your sentences together.
Okay, they have different goals, different objectives. Yeah.
Right. But when we're speaking, right, they should be present. Both of them should be present, right?
Okay. Thank you, Enrique. So we have another question. It says, how can you make students in rural areas improve their speaking skills if they show no background of vocabulary? This is from Rodrigo Panduro Perez.
Yeah, great question, right? I would say just make sure that they start using chunks, right? Remember the video that we watched where this teacher started with focusing on accuracy with some phrases, right? And then she moved to the fluency part, right? You can start with simple things as when's your birthday, right? Or how old are you? And have them practice that with different people, right? You know, with puppets, create their own person and just give them an age, and then have people, how old is he, how old is she, just give them chunks of language that are easy for them to understand, even if they don't understand exactly that. How is an interrogative pronoun, old, right, is an adjective, are is the verb to be, you is a pronoun, right? You don't need to understand every single word, but they can just find the chunks, right? And find opportunities to learn that with songs, maybe with video clips and movies, right? I have worked with volunteers that work in rural communities, and I have provided feedback to them. And whenever they, repeated a phrase, they would need a lot of repetition, especially for these kids in rural areas that don't have a lot of exposure to the language. As people who maybe live in bigger cities where they can see words in English, maybe on TV, on ads, right? In rural communities, sometimes there's limited access, so that we need to create those scenarios and those spaces and environments for our students. And remember, repetition is going to be very important for them so that they become familiar with the language structures and chunks.
Yeah, great ideas, Enrique. Thank you so much. Now we have another question here. How much do you think students should practice English in order to feel comfortable with the language? The most of Peruvian students aren't exposed much to the foreign language as well as teachers.
Yeah, exactly. And I now with the internet, and I think that's one of the advantages of the pandemic, is that we have more access, right, to the internet. We have more access to resources online. There are a lot of teachers out there producing resources for their students, and they upload those resources to the internet. So I would say there are opportunities. We just need to look for those opportunities, right? You need to make sure, you know, set aside some time and say, okay, I'm going to practice as a student, as a learner, and sit down and say, like, sometimes we just, you know, wait for the teacher to tell us what to do, right? But we as learners, and we should inspire our learners to do that, right? How can we do that? You have the answer, because you know your students better than I do, right? I wouldn't be able to tell you how to motivate your students. But if they see the value in learning English, they will set aside time to practice on their own and find those resources, and find the resources that they like and that are appropriate for their level and ages.
Yeah, thank you so much, Enrique. Please stay with us some minutes more. We are going to continue with the webinar. Now I'm going to share, sorry, my screen. And it's time to know our guest speaker for the next week, our final webinar. Please, can you help us? Dear Kurt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, here.
Thank you,
Can
Mary.
you share my, yeah, can you see my screen? Yeah, it's okay. Okay, your turn, dear Kurt.
Okay, you can miss our last webinar of this year. We're gonna have the presence of Nela de la Fuente. She's educator and manager, director of operations, and co-founder of Evolution Peru, with extensive experience as sustainable and educational projects manager with institutions like the British Council and Fundación Lima. She's an educational consultant with focus in ELT and technology, has participated as part of consulting teams for Minedu to create and evaluate projects. She's gonna deliver the following topic: systems to demonstrate learning. In this webinar, we will learn to familiarize participants with formative evaluation, identify some ways to measure learning at the school level, and the processes to do so. So the date is next Saturday, November 6th, from 5 to 7. We're gonna be more than happy to have you there.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Kurt. Yeah, now your name is there. Para la próxima semana, recuerden que tenemos nuestro último webinar. Cerramos este ciclo de webinars con nuestra querida ponente, Nela de la Fuente, que va a venir a compartir con todos nosotros, como ya lo he mencionado, Kurt, este excelente webinar titulado Systems to Demonstrate Learning. Vamos a hablar de la evaluación formativa, de algunas formas de poder medir el aprendizaje, el nivel del aprendizaje, el proceso en nuestros estudiantes. Súper interesante, así que ya saben, no se lo pueden perder. Llegó el momento de ver el exit ticket para que puedan registrar su asistencia, sigan sumando las horas para su constancia de participación. Ahora nos ayuda Pamelita. Pamelita, ¿estás por ahí, nuestra administradora?
Yes, Miss. Good afternoon,
Okay.
everybody. Well, good evening
Hi,
now.
Pamelita, continue.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. Well, now it's time for the exit ticket. Yeah, remember that this will be available for 15 minutes. So hurry up to click on or type this. Yeah, this is HTTPS. Yeah, then you have here /CUTT.ly/ with capital letters IELTT 11 with a small letter EH. I don't know if you want me to spell in Spanish. Yeah, HTTPS Sorry, I forgot. Los dos puntos, los doble slash, la U, doble T, punto, L, y el slash nuevamente, y con mayúscula, la I, la E, L, la doble T, doble 1 o el 11, y con minúscula ya el TH, ¿no? Because this is our 11th webinar. Remember that you have to fill in with your personal data, yeah, fill in all the information that you are asked for, and please be careful with the letters, your names, because this is going to be very useful for the certification that you are going to get at the end of this cycle of webinars, yeah? Well, thank you, Miss Mariela, for this, and let's continue with the webinar.
Thanks a lot, dear Pamelita. Tal como lo acaba de indicar, por favor, no olvide colocar sus datos correctos, su correo electrónico correcto para que les llegue el material sin ningún inconveniente. Respondan las 3 preguntas. Sé que han estado atentos en el webinar de hoy día, que ha estado excelente. Así que sabemos que van a estar todas muy, muy bien.
Hola, Mariela, ¿me escuchan? Hola.
Hola. Are we still live, I think? I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, but that's all right. I think Mariela froze, but I can, yeah, I'll log off now. Thank you so much. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for staying with us.
Okay, always a pleasure. It's always my pleasure to be here with you, and anytime if I have time, I'll be happy to share.
Please, we will be really happy to have you here. And thank you to all the teachers who were here with us. And dear teachers, see you next time. We're gonna be happy to have you here next week.
All right, bye-bye everyone. Bye bye.
¿Se me ve? Ahora sí, encendemos todas las camaritas. Me he quedado sin luz. Vean, es la primera vez que me sucede en todo el ciclo de webinars. Estamos todavía al aire, creo, veo ahí que está en vivo.
Yes.
Si encendemos las camaritas, Enrique, estamos por ahí. Vamos a despedirnos el día de hoy. Mi conexión está un poco lenta. Gracias, Angelita, por seguir con el webinar. Muchísimas gracias a toda la audiencia el día de hoy. Gracias a ti, Enrique, por todo lo compartido con todos los maestros. Lo agradecemos de corazón. A nombre de toda la familia de English Teachers in Peru, de todos los maestros que siempre están al tanto de todos los eventos que realizamos en nuestra comunidad, y de parte del equipo maravilloso de administradores que son los corazones y el motor que está detrás de toda la comunidad. Ya te veo ahí, Enrique.
Ya estamos. Ok, gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Gracias a ti por todo. Bien, nos despedimos todos el día de hoy. Con ustedes, Miss Ángela Salazar Barrera, Angelita, que ha estado aquí, Miss Sulamita Chudén, Miss Pamela Salazar, Teacher Kurt Vilela, Miss Miriam Córdoba, Teacher Ricardo Inostroza, Juan Manuel, que ya se pudo conectar, ahora sí te vemos. Hasta México, los saludos, querido Juan Manuel.
Disculpen, porque no tuve problemas con el Con el video.
Con la conexión.
Con la conexión.
No te preocupes, Juan Manuel. Igual estoy yo sin luz aquí, continuando con el webinar. Muchísimas gracias a todos, también a teacher José Ortega Cerruto, que ha estado detrás de toda la transmisión. Tal vez unas palabras para despedirte de la comunidad, querido Enrique.
Yeah, so siempre un placer, always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation, and please keep up the good work, and let's continue growing professionally together.
Thank you so much, dear Enrique. Now it's time to say goodbye. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
The same.